Hey everyone, it's Andy with Fountain of Youth with Andy. Every Wednesday, I'm going to commit to this. Every Wednesday, we're going to be doing a Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live on the topic on the Fountain of Youth. And my name is Andy Nam. I am a functional nutrition longevity coach. And over the last 13 years, I've been just looking for ways to reverse the damage to the body, after suffering a major car accident myself so many years ago that have caused so many problems with chronic pain, gut dysfunctions, brain fog, you name it, I had it. I was just not a very pleasant guy to be around in my 30s and 40s, very short temper and frowning more than smiling. Now that I am 13 years into studying functional nutrition and everything around that, and even doing all these biohacking things that I've learned from biohackers around the world, I just love to share some of these tips and tricks and protocols that we use in our practice to help others hopefully live a longer life, but not just to live longer, but to look younger and feel younger while we are living a longer life, right? What's the point of living a long time if you can't enjoy life with your life partner, with your children, or some of us, some of you out there with your grandchildren and great grandchildren, right? You want to be not only there, present to be there, but be able to have the energy, the vitality to play with them, to have conversations with them and everything. So that's really what drives my passion in what we do. And as a biohacker, there are many ways to biohack your life to a younger state. And today, I just want to talk about two things that all biohackers around the world are chasing. There are like two biomarkers that any biohacker will tell you, well, these are the things that you really want to chase down to achieve a younger body, right? And these two things that I like to talk about today, of course, is your stem cells. And, a lot of people know I've been talking about stem cells recently, and stem cells really is the holy grail into living a longer time, because stem cells are your innate body's ability to change to whatever cells it needs to be changed to in order to repair what's damaged in the body. And there are many, many legal and illegal ways, at least in the United States, to elevate stem cells. There are stem cell infusion therapies, IV infusions that are available in Mexico. I know a few friends and clients that have done that, going down to Mexico to get, these stem cell infusions. You can do it in Germany, parts of Europe. I even heard, don't want to get anyone in trouble by naming companies, but I even heard there are a few companies in Texas, clinics that will actually go into your home to give you stem cell infusions. And once again, these are ways to elevate your body's stem cells, and costs for these stem cell infusions are usually between 7,000, 10,000, up to 15,000. And from my understanding, talking to the people that's administrating it, the facilities that use these practices, they tell you, well, most of the time you need 7 to 10 infusions before you start seeing a difference. And on average, there's a 30% chance they're going to work. Once again, this is the information I'm getting from them. I'm not a company that gives you stem cell infusions. There are other ways to naturally boost your stem cells. And in these last 13 years, up until 2 years ago, Minna and I, we used to go to hyperbaric chambers. There's been a study, I believe, out in Israel that studied hyperbaric chamber use over 90 days. So basically over 3 months, people in their late 50s, which is like our age, were going into hyperbaric chambers for 90 minutes a day for 5 days a week over 90 days. And then this is the second marker I want to talk about, is they measured the telomeres. And for biohackers, telomeres is the other thing that we all measure to see how young and old you are. But anyways, it was a very interesting study, because for these people that went in hybrid chambers for 90 days, 5 days a week for 90 minutes, they have found that their telomeres actually lengthened. And they lengthened to a point that over those 90 days, I believe their telomeres were equivalent of 20 to 30 years younger than their actual age. So when I saw that, that research, I said, wow, this is awesome. And then I was looking for a hyperbaric chamber in Houston. And this is when we first moved to Texas. And me and Minna started doing hyperbaric chamber sessions. And if you haven't tried it before, it's sort of cool. You're in this inflatable tent. They're pumping oxygen into you. So you're breathing pure oxygen, right? Normally this is used for people in scuba diving where you have the bends, but this have shown tremendous research has shown it speeds up healing. They even use it for cancer treatments, right? Usually after stage 4, stage 5. I don't know why they don't do it for stage 1, but that's a story for another episode. But me and Minna start doing hyperbaric chamber treatments, right? And of course they can be pretty pricey. They're anywhere from $85 to $200 a session, depending what type of package you buy. And that's what we're doing. We're doing these things to stimulate our stem cells, right? To hopefully elevate our stem cells. But today, I want to talk about that second marker, and that's telomeres, right? And for the holy grail for a lot of biohackers, they want to figure out how can we extend our telomeres, right? So right now, I told you about the hyperbaric chamber. That's one of the ways to extend the telomeres and elevate stem cells. But there are a few other natural ways to, first of all, slow down the unraveling of your telomeres. And before I even dive into that, I want you guys to have understanding what telomeres are. So a way of measuring how old or young your cells are is, of course, we are made up of cells, and DNA makes up our cells. And our DNAs, they literally look like these little X's, right? Our DNA. But at the end of the X's, there's these little caps, right? If you can imagine, if you still wear shoes or shoelaces, I know everyone's wearing slip-ons nowadays, but if you wear shoes or shoelaces, you know how the shoelaces, they have that little end cap at the shoelace, right? And that's sort of like how telomeres work. As you get older, that little end cap, it gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And, if you have old shoes, like some of the shoes I have, when you wear out those shoelaces and that end cap comes off, the shoelace just frails and it just becomes a hot mess, right? And that's what telomeres are. As you get older, the DNA gets shorter and shorter, the end cap. And then once, during the time when you actually have a long telomere, your body is continuously creating new cells, right, to regenerate your body. But as it gets shorter and shorter, you're creating less and less cells. And to the point once it just unravels, well, that's it. That particular DNA is no longer replicating anymore. And that's why when we're getting old, if we're not continuously replicating cells to replace the cells that are damaged, that's when things start happening. We start getting joint pains, we get brain fog, and these things can develop into worse chronic conditions. So that's basically in a nutshell what telomeres are. So back to how do we slow down the unwinding of these telomeres, right? The first thing that a lot of people do, and I'm just going to go through some of the things that I've been doing for the last 13 years, is the free one, right? This one's amazing. Me and Minna do this once every quarter, and even doing a 12-hour would be amazing for most people that aren't doing it. And that is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is totally free, right? So intermittent fasting is, what it means is you are taking a bigger break in between times that you're actually eating, right? And when you intermittent fast for 2-3 days, your body will start going into autophagy, where it actually eats the bad cells, which is what you want. You don't want the damaged cells hanging around, right? And it preserves the healthy ones. And then this also, during this time of autophagy and intermittent fasting, it actually slows down your telomere damage. So that's one way of doing it. And of course, if it's after 3 days, your body starts creating new stem cells in the intestinal lining. Within 5 days, you start creating stem cells over your body. But for most people, intermittent fasting, which means not eating for, like I said, 3 to 5 days with just drinking water, is difficult. Even though it's free, it's difficult. But that's the first way to slow down the tearing down your telomeres, so basically slowing down your aging. And of course, even elevating stem cells naturally, right? So I told you about the hyperbaric chamber, very expensive. I told you about intermittent fasting. The next one that most people is failing epically is having a good sleep. Sleeping is the time when your body is actually repairing itself. It is so critical to have not just a long period of sleep. I think for most people, we really need between 7 to 9 hours of sleep for most people. And I know there's people out there that says, well, I can get away with 3 to 4 hours of sleep. I used to be one of those people. And 3 to 4 hours of sleep, you're literally working like you're drunk. Studies are showing if you have like only 3 to 4 hours of sleep, your attention span, your focus, it's about being drunk. So like, yeah, sure, you could survive on 3-4 hours of sleep, but you're not going to be at your highest potential. So sleep's important, but it's the quality of sleep, how deep your sleep is. So it's always important to figure ways to elevate so we get a deeper sleep, and more importantly, to track it. It's not about just how long you sleep, but how well you sleep. How much was that? Was it deep sleep? How much was it in REM sleep when you're actually dreaming? Right? How much of it is when your body's actually repairing and digesting the food and stuff like that? And one of the best ways to track that is you can use Apple Watch, Google Watch, Samsung Watch. But like, my personal favorite is we use the Aura Ring, and we've been using that for the last, oh my gosh, for the last 4 or 5 years. And it's been showing amazing data on how your sleep affects your health. The next one, and I share this quite often on Facebook, is, of course, cold and hot therapy. Cold and hot therapy is shown to activate your mitochondria, which is the power cells for your cells, which is very important, right? Because they are the energy packs for your cells. And if your mitochondria go down, you have less energy. But cold and hot therapy has shown that it also can slow down your telomeres from unraveling. So it slows it down. It doesn't stop it. It slows it down. Once again, these are ways that slow it down. And for those of you that don't have an ice tub, because there are a lot of gyms that has ice baths out there. You see athletes do it all the time, right? Everyone has a shower, right? I would suggest taking cold showers. Not quite as good as a hot cold therapy, but if you cycle your shower, this is one of the things I always talk about, cycle your shower from the full hot to the full cold, and you have some music going, every 2 minutes or so, you're flicking it back and forth. You are getting your body into, activating those shock proteins. And once again, it improves your mitochondria activity, and it's going to slow down your telomeres coming down, right? Next one, another one that's free is trying to chill out, right? A lot of people can do it through journaling. You can do it through meditation, yoga, just ways you can, lower down that cortisol, trying to lower down the chronic stress, because chronic stress unravels your telomere like crazy. Chronic stress actually ages you. So if you see a lot of people that are stressed and like working to burning the clock, the wick on both ends, working 80-hour weeks, you can tell they look much older, right? Not only is their telomeres unraveling, but they're literally burning their stem cells quickly to try to recover from all the damage they're doing from all the chronic stress, right? So I would recommend to start doing some meditation, or, even for sleeping, like Min and I, we have these sleep apps that tell you a little story, chills you out. And I always fall asleep before the story's over. I never know what the end of the story is, but it's a great way to lower down your stress, to get your mind off the frenetic activity that happened throughout the day, right? The next one is a big one that started my journey into health and nutrition is supplementation. We all know nowadays, and well, most of us know nowadays, food isn't what it was when it's back into our ancestors. And when I'm saying ancestors, I'm saying even our dad's time or our grandfather's time. Like one orange back then, you probably have to eat like 10 oranges to get the same equivalent of vitamin C and minerals and antioxidants out that, that one orange you can eat 10 years ago, even 20 years ago. So food is not the same as it used to be. And, I can go into an hour just talking about that, about, trying to choose organic, but, look for the, stay away from the dirty dozen, try to eat the clean 15 when you gain whole fruits and vegetables. That's from EWG backslash EWG.org backslash the Dirty Dozen. I think you can actually download that. But that's a great way to figure out which of the fruits and vegetables are the most toxic, and you have to try to eat organic. And then, of course, the other ones you can, it's called the Clean 15. You can try eating when they're not organic, because I know depending where you are, certain people, organic could be expensive, right? And if you can't afford organic, that's okay. Just try to eat as clean as possible and have protocols to help detox whatever heavy metals, chemicals are in those fruits and vegetables, right? But, coming down, since food is not as nutritionally dense as it used to be, it's so important to supplement, right? I will always say, look for a very good multivitamin. That's something that we recommend. Min and I, we try to eat fairly clean. So we take our multivitamin maybe once every second or third day, but we still supplement about multivitamin. But the ones that I would recommend specifically, if you want to boost telomere length, is you want to take vitamin D3 and K2, right? That's a good supplement. There's studies showing that astragalus root seems to work. I don't actually take that. There are NAD boosters that are available through supplementation or IV injections, which boosts your glutathione. So, boosting your glutathione is actually a very good way to heal your body, reduce inflammation, and slow down telomere coming down, right? So these are some supplements you can take. And of course, I'm not a doctor. I'm a functional nutrition longevity coach. I can't prescribe any medication. Don't ever stop any medication without going to your doctor first. I'm not claiming we're healing or anything. I'm just sharing my protocols that I learned over the last 13 years. The next one is photobiomodulation or phototherapy, and more specifically, red light therapy. There's a lot of studies showing now near infrared light. You see it, people in infrared saunas, infrared tents. My wife and I, we have infrared tent in our home. We have infrared sauna in our home. This is another thing that we used to do until I'm going to share at the very end on what we've been doing to stimulate our body to a more useful state. But red light therapy have shown once again to stimulate mitochondria, the energy powerhouses of your cells, which is very, very important. But red light therapy also protects your telomeres. So it actually slows down your telomeres from unwinding, right? So these are some of the things that you can do to slow down unwinding of your telomeres. And then, of course, the last one, this is something that most people are doing, and that's movement. More importantly, exercise in certain ways, right? I particularly like more resistance training, right? More of a HIIT style training where you have a fast pace, a slow pace, a fast pace, and a slow pace to get your heart rate up, let it come down, heart rate up, come down for better heart health. Not very much in anymore for staying a couple hours, just weightlifting as heavy as you can, chatting out with people in the gym. That's fine if you want to do for social time, but for me, that's sort of a waste of time, and potentially you can hurt yourself when you're trying to carry too much weight, especially when you're getting older. But if you're training to be in a contest, a bodybuilding contest, fitness contest, hey, of course, you need to do what you need to do. But for general health and longevity, I think usually 30 minutes of strenuous exercise, cycling between a harder exercise to get the heart rate up and one to slowly bring it back down is more than sufficient for most people. And it gives them good heart health, gives them good strength. Like I said, I like resistance training, TRX suspension bands, body weight exercises, those like that. Movement and exercises without going too hard has also shown to slow down telomeres. Now, the last two that I want to share. So what can increase your telomeres? So have you heard of peptide therapy? So peptide therapy, you know, it's becoming more and more popular. I'm seeing them popping up quite a few now in Houston. You know, I saw a lot of it in California, but basically what they do is they infuse peptides into you. Like it's called exogenous peptides because they're an outside source introducing into your body. And one of the peptides that you can use to actually increase your telomeres, not slow it down like everything else I said earlier, but actually increase your telomeres, is you can infuse a peptide, and it's called epithelium. Epithelium. Anyways, that's, you know, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. I believe it's epithelium. Anyways, this is one of the peptides shown when it's elevated in your body, it can actually increase your telomeres. So there are a lot of, you know, those IV wellness places that can, you know, give you this particular peptide that can lengthen your telomeres, in which case, like I said, longer telomeres means you're a younger state. They also do glutathione infusions, and then and then the other peptide that a lot of these things can do, these places can do, is they can do a GHK copper peptide. That's another infusion that you can do. Some people are putting it into their eye drops, they're putting it into their skincare, they're putting it into their dental toothpaste. But you know, there are infusions of that too. And the GHK copper peptide, this one's very important. This is another peptide. The first one, the epithelium, actually extends your telomeres. That's one of your biomarkers for being younger, right? The other one is the number of stem cells you have circulating your body is another marker of how young you are. And studies show that when GHK-Cu, the copper peptide, is elevated, right, through using some of these products, doing it externally, your body starts healing faster. It starts resetting genes. It starts boosting collagen. It starts boosting elastin. It starts elevating stem cell activation that are dormant and actually reactivate new stem cells, right? So, and that is from this GHK-Cu that your body normally has, but because as we're getting older and we start declining and these peptides go down from all the toxins and stressors in our life, including chronic stress, like I said, these peptides decline. So those are the ways that I like to share for people out there, you know, in the biohacking world that are trying to figure out what's a great way to get younger, to have markers to, you know, not just look younger on the outside, you know, but to say, hey, look, here's a report how long my telomeres are, you know, this is like the number of stem cells I have, and these are great ways to figure out how to reverse your health. So like I said, I've been doing this for 13 years, and I just talked about my whole chest of my secret weapons on how I stay looking young and feeling young and repairing the damage done to my body 30 years ago. And, you know, two other products that's in my chest that I recently, you know, was introduced to 2 years ago is, of course, LifeWave products, right? And LifeWave, once again, we can't claim they heal, cure, or treat any symptoms. All right. First of all, if I want to get that out of the way, I'm not claiming any of that. And once again, I'm not a doctor, so we're not claiming this heals or cures anything. But the first one I want to talk about is Alavita. So Alavita is a patch. It's a phototherapy patch. So Similar to, remember I was telling you about infrared therapy, phototherapy, where you're using external light source. The beauty of LifeWave patches is using you as a light source. All living beings have infrared light. What LifeWave have found is when you reflect back certain frequencies to your body of your own infrared light, you start creating certain peptides naturally. So your body is actually the battery to heal. Well, can't say heal, to restore your body. All right, to restore your body. So your body has the ability to restore naturally how your body feels and ages over time. And the beauty of Aloe Vera, this is one of my go-to sleeping patches. What it does is it, by stimulating your pineal gland, it actually elevates your epithelium peptide, right? And once again, when that peptide is elevated, it can extend your telomeres. So, there are you have your choice now. You can get IV infusions, right? Or you can try using the patch to get your body to naturally stimulate this peptide. The other one is my favorite, and the one that is the backbone of everything I've been doing in the last 2.5 years, and I'm seeing amazing results, is the X39. And the X39 patch, what that does is it elevates the GHK copper peptide. And if you remember what I said about the GHK copper peptide, studies have shown that the GHK copper peptide elevates collagen, elevates elastin, so you're getting, firmer skin. It elevates glutathione, so it boosts your immune system, helps you detox. It's showing that elevate GHKCU speeds up healing, when you get in the cuts, bruises, whatever, right? They have studies showing that it resets your genes to a younger state. And of course, there are multiple studies showing that elevated GHKCU, regardless how you elevate it, through your toothpaste, through your skin cream, through your eye drops, or maybe using this patch to stimulate your body to create it, the GHKCU can start getting these effects to start elevating stem cells, right? Because stem cells is, at the end of the day, the holy grail of not just looking young, but actually to be at a much younger state, right? Because once I believe the Journal of Medicine says the number of stem cells actively in your body is what actually determines your biological age, right? And the biological age and your chronological age don't need to mean the same thing. Chronological is the age on your driver's license. Biological age is what you look like, feel like, and is at the current time. And if you elevate your stem cells and extend your telomeres or keep your telomeres from shortening, guess what? You're going to be a much younger looking and younger feeling individual. So that's really what I really wanted to share today with everyone out there on the Fountain of Youth. It really is about supporting our body. We talk about food, we talk about toxins, and it's all part of everything, but it can't be just all about trying to eat better and move more. Like I'm sick and tired of hearing that from doctors when I get clients coming in. Oh, I got diabetes, I can't lose weight, and my doctor says I need to eat less and move more. I'm calling BS on that, because that is not good enough to repair your body if you're not giving your body support. So support your body naturally. The supplements, of course, get out the sunlight. Forgot about the sunlight with the vitamin D. That's a great way to get vitamin D. So get out to the sun as much as possible without your sunglasses, without your sun tanning lotions. Not going to go too much into that. That's another episode in itself. And of course, support your natural wellness with LifeWave patches. And please reach out to me at longevitywithandy.com if you want to learn more about how to live longer, if you want some coaching on your lifestyle, how to improve your lifestyle, deeper dive on what is working, what isn't working. I would love to work 90 days with you, one-to-one. We have an online program if you want to do it at self-paced. And of course, if you want to learn more about these amazing Life Wave patches, I can share more information on that too, right? It really is, our health is our responsibility. Stop giving that power to your doctors, to your loved ones, to your family. They can only support you, but they cannot help you. Only you can help yourself. So think about that. Your health is your own, and only you can make the change. And if you need any type of support with that change, reach out to me, longevitywithandy.com, and I'll see you all next week.